I feel like my boyfriend has been reincarnated. It's as if he suddenly realized I'm a bad woman, just toying with his feelings. And now, he's especially kind to my younger sister, who's pure and delicate like a lotus in clear water. That day, I saw him corner my sister against the wall. His eyes were red as he gently brushed her hair aside and said, in a restrained voice, "Really? I was such a fool. It turns out you were the one I'd been looking for all along. In my past life, I missed out on you. In this life, I'll make it up to you with everything I have. Okay?" Chapter 1. This was the 5th time Dominic-chan hadn't come to pick me up after class. In the past, something like this would have been unthinkable. I sat by the window, staring at the endless rain outside, making sure the rain would smear my makeup just enough to look pitiful. I then ran straight into the downpour. Chapter 2. Dominic was sitting in a cafe with Valentina. He reached out gently to brush aside her bangs. She blushed and shrank back slightly. I pushed the door open and barged into the shop. The bell above the door rang, cutting through the quiet atmosphere. My sister turned pale in fright, while Dominic withdrew his hand and looked up at me. "You're here?" I gave a weak, delicate smile. Just before I entered, I had checked my reflection in the glass. My makeup wasn't too ruined, just enough to provoke sympathy. So when I sat next to Dominic-chan, he didn't push me away. "You promised to pick me up. Did you forget?" I leaned in close, nearly touching his nose. I've always been confident in my looks, especially when I look at him with these sorrowful eyes. After a moment of hesitation, the man lowered his gaze and apologized. "Sorry, Valen had questions about her homework. I lost track of time. I didn't mean to forget you." I smiled and generously said it was fine. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed my dear little sister. Her fists were clenched under the table. She was on the verge of not being able to hide her sadness anymore. Chapter 3. Back in high school, when a group of people shoved my head into a toilet, I made a vow. I would do whatever it took to live the life I wanted. I would never again let anyone see me in a pathetic state. So no, I'm not a good person. I never have been. I studied hard, practiced posture and poise, and thought about how to present the best version of myself to the world, expanding my social circles. I did everything, no matter how ruthless, to become excellent, so excellent that when people mentioned my name, they'd say, "Victoria, how could such a perfect girl exist?" It took me so much to earn the approval of my stern father. My teachers adored me, and my friends supported me. I thought my life could stay in that delicate balance forever, until Valentina showed up. Chapter 4. She was my father's illegitimate daughter. Valentina came looking for us on her own. The moment she appeared, the family's balance shattered. I cried, demanding to know why my father had another woman. He said nothing. Valentina curled up in a corner of the room, as if none of this was her fault. And Valentina had this strange magic about her, a naturally sorrowful, pitiful aura, different from my deliberate pretense. People around her couldn't help but feel sorry for her. Not long after, even my father began to protect her. My friends all told me to be kinder to her, insisting it wasn't her fault. They warned me not to act like the evil stepsister in TV dramas. Once again, I felt threatened, because I realized everyone around me was slowly being drawn to her. I needed to defend my territory. Chapter 5. So I took Dominic, but rather than taking him, it was more like Valentina handed him over herself. Valentina, ever so kind and helpful, had once volunteered in an earthquake relief effort. There, she saved Dominic, the young heir of the Jiang family, who had been traveling in the mountains. Unfortunately, Dominic's vision was affected at the time, and his awareness was foggy. He didn't clearly remember her face, so I stepped in and took her place. Dominic poured all his energy into finding the person who saved him during that disaster, but Valentina refused to reveal herself no matter what. I said, "Sister, if you really don't want him to know, why not just introduce him to me?" Valentina bit her lip and agreed back then, but now, I think, she probably regrets it. Chapter 6. Dominic. Dominic is a gentle and righteous man. When he was good to me, he never missed a single meal, remembered my period schedule perfectly. Even the green grapes he gave me were always peeled. But then overnight, His warmth toward me suddenly turned into resistance. He started ignoring my calls. One Saturday morning, I went to Dominic Chan's studio. He studied oil painting, having graduated from a top art academy overseas. The studio smelled of pine resin and was filled with scattered sunlight. As I stepped into the large space, I saw someone sleeping by the easel from afar. He seemed to have pulled an all-nighter. His breathing was calm and steady. I quietly approached his canvas. The person on it looked 3 or 4 parts like me. Smiling at the painter, the colors hadn't been added yet. It took me a while to realize. It wasn't me. It was Valentina. Chapter 7. I must have stared too long at the painting, not even realizing he had woken up. I was crouched down, and when I turned around, I saw him silently watching me. "What's up? Why are you painting my sister? Paint me next time, will you?" I simply sat in his lap. He sighed and wrapped his arms around me. "No time." His gesture was gentle, but his words were cutting. I think the phrase harboring ulterior motives perfectly describes the two of us now. But I've always been good at pretending. I blinked and turned to look at him. "Dominic, if I ever did something you didn't like, you have to tell me, okay? Don't keep it all in." "Dummy." I pinched his nose. It wasn't just about acting weak. I was trying to find a way to soften the tension between us. Sometimes, not saying things is what truly ruins a relationship. And right now, I still need Dominic. His brown eyes stared at me for a long time. So serious that I suddenly had a bad feeling, like I was digging my own grave. Soon, I heard him ask, "Was it really you who saved me that day?" Chapter 8. That question was hard to answer. Dominic, a top university graduate from a family with industries spanning half the city, was the ideal marriage partner for the perfect life I had always pursued. To be honest, I started dating him with marriage in mind, but after we got together, I realized, when it came to love, I was just a naive child. So, to put it simply, I fell for him, and that made lying to him much trickier. But he didn't wait for my answer. He pushed me off his lap. For the first time, I saw disappointment in his eyes. "You don't have to answer." Yeah, my silence had already said everything. Still, I felt something hollow in my chest, as if the fortress I'd built so painstakingly had been effortlessly toppled in an instant. Chapter 9. So, did you and Dominic Chan break up? Up on the school rooftop, I was sipping coffee with another guy. His name was Leo Liu, my junior. Even though he was younger, he was one of the few people I truly considered a friend. We'd known each other since high school. He'd seen me at my worst, back when I was bullied, and he'd even helped me get back at the girls who did it. I lowered my head and toyed with the tab on my soda can. Dominic hadn't officially broken up with me, but it couldn't be far off. "Oh right, your sister's been coming to me a lot lately," Leo said with a stretch and a grin. If I could go back in time, I'd definitely be more cautious of what Leo said that day. "Oh right, your sister's been coming to me a lot lately," because slowly, Valentina began showing up more and more in my conversations with Leo. After Dominic stopped talking to me as much, Leo Liu became the person I talked to the most. My schedule was still packed, competitions, appearances, everything. Because it wasn't just love, I needed to excel at everything to maintain the persona I'd created. That kind of life was exhausting, but I'd always lived like this, and I never complained until the day of my speech competition. Something happened backstage that made my entire life feel like a joke. Chapter 10. I was the last speaker of the event, the final act, so I was alone in the dressing room. Just as I was clipping on the last hairpin, the door burst open. It was my long-lost boyfriend, Dominic. Oh, and he was holding another girl's hand, my sister, Valentina. He was furious. Valentina, meanwhile, was crying like a scene straight out of a soap opera. He dragged her in front of me, then yanked up her sleeve to show me. "This was you, wasn't it?" Her pale arm was covered in red marks, like she'd been whipped. I raised my brows. That expression only made him angrier. "What kind of face is that?" "Heh, Victoria, you really can't leave even your own sister alone." "Huh?" My dear sister kept sobbing, tugging at Dominic's sleeve. "Please, Dominic, don't ask. It's not my sister's fault." "Dominic, She called him so sweetly. I lowered my gaze to the marks on her arm. I had no idea where they came from, but Dominic had clearly decided I was the wicked culprit. I opened my mouth to explain. Just then, someone else walked in, Leo Lu, hands in his pockets. When I saw him, I finally felt a bit of relief. I tried to put on a composed smile. Dominic, think about it. Why would I hurt my own sister? Leo, perfect timing. You know, I've been bullied before. Why would I ever? Mid-sentence, I froze, because I saw Leo's expression. He had never looked at me with such disgust before. In my head, I started remembering how recently Leo had been mentioning Valentina a lot. Your sister's so shy. Your sister's terrible at calculus. Saw your sister in the cafeteria today. Your sister. In the dead silence of the dressing room, his voice finally echoed. I heard him say, word by word, Victoria, I really misjudged you. You were bullied. So now you need to take it out on someone else? Chapter 11. This scene felt far too familiar. I watched Valentina clutching Dominic's sleeve. So pitifully. I watched Leo instinctively step in front of her. I smiled at them, even though my eyelashes were trembling. Is that so? If you really think I'm a bully, call the police. Let the cops handle it, okay? I walked past them. Dominic Chan suddenly grabbed my wrist. I heard him say, apologize to your sister. Leo stepped in front of me, head lowered, trying to persuade. Victoria, I don't want you to become this kind of cruel person, but I hadn't done anything wrong. Why was everyone accusing me? I turned to the side and saw Valentina's red eyes. She knew I hadn't hurt her, but she said nothing. I pulled my wrist away and shoved past both of them. Sorry. You too, I'm really busy. I have a speech. I'm going to win first place. I don't have time for this. You still care about a speech right now? Leo said behind me, but I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I walked onto the stage. Even if there was nothing behind me, I would still keep moving forward. Chapter 12. That speech? It went smoothly. The applause was endless as I took my bow, smiling with practiced grace. But my mind was elsewhere. I watched from the stage, Valentina, in her white dress, being led away by Dominic. Leo followed behind, gently tugging at her ponytail with a touch of affection. But why? Why was it that even when the spotlight was on me, even when I didn't falter, didn't make a fool of myself, my heart still felt like it was being swallowed by a tidal wave of emptiness? A few days later, Dominic suddenly came looking for me. Truthfully, I didn't have much time to deal with relationship drama. If Dominic was gone, I could always find someone else to replace him. But when I stared at his message on my phone, I realized I still couldn't let go. Yes, he was my first and only relationship. Sure, it began as a calculated choice for my future. But later, I actually started to like him. I held on to a shred of hope. Maybe he'd look back at me. Maybe he'd realize I could never be the kind of person who'd bully my own sister. But instead, he called me out to some deserted gym. Then he grabbed my wrist and snapped. Victoria, can't you just leave your sister alone? Why are you spreading rumors that she's the one who came between us? We've already broken up. Can't you have a little dignity, Victoria? I blinked, nearly laughing from the sheer absurdity. Whatever lingering affection I had vanished on the spot. Oh really? Dominic? And who exactly told you I was spreading those rumors? He sneered. If not you, then who else? Your sister's so kind. She's always praising you in front of me. Can you stop being so petty and stop projecting onto her? I was about to explode. You two are always glued together. Who wouldn't be suspicious? And you're blaming me? He curled his lips into a cold smirk, showing your true colors now. Huh, Victoria? Let me tell you, your sister is way more pure and kind than you'll ever be. I won't let you hurt her. Not in this lifetime. I wanted to scream back, but all I heard was the deafening slam of the door. When I ran over and tugged at it, I suddenly realized it wouldn't open. He'd locked me inside? This was the first time I truly felt on the verge of breaking. I yanked violently at the door, making a racket. Hey, Dominic, come back here. Who the hell do you think you are? You. Are you brain dead? No one was around anyway, so I cursed freely. I kicked at the locked door with everything I had. This gym was so far out of the way. Barely anyone passed by. After pretending to be the good girl for so long, maybe it was time I blew off some steam. Just as my legs went weak and my nose began to sting, a low chuckle echoed nearby. Victoria? So this is what you're really like. Chapter 13. I slowly turned my head. There was a stranger, a guy I'd never seen before, sitting on an old gym mat, legs swinging, watching me. He must have been asleep there earlier. That's why neither Dominic nor I noticed him. The first thing I thought when I saw him was, how many holes does this guy have? Brow piercing, lip ring, earrings. I hated this kind of rebellious kid, someone who shattered all my ideas of proper. But he was annoyingly handsome, wild, careless. I was briefly stunned. Took me a second to reset my expression. Huh? Do we know each other? He laughed, a harmless, pure kind of laugh. You're switching faces real quick. Weren't you just kicking the door down a second ago? How'd you go from that to such a ladylike tone? I ignored his teasing and smiled politely. Classmate, do you know if there's another exit in this gym? He shook his head. Just that one. Locked up by your charming ex. I nodded and began texting friends to come get me. He jumped down from the mat, hands in pockets, and strolled over, leaning in. He chuckled near my ear. Victoria, you really don't remember me? I turned to look at him. Yeah, he definitely had the kind of face that probably had a new girlfriend every week. Not my type, he didn't fit any of the criteria for my ideal future partner. Nope, don't know you. He raised an eyebrow. We exchanged contacts. You know, no way. I handed him my phone skeptically so he could try searching. He typed in his number, and sure enough, a contact popped up. Saved as 188 Rich doesn't reply. He went silent for a moment, then laughed mischievously by my ear. That's when it hit me. I had, at some point, categorized the guys I added to my contact list while scouting for suitable boyfriends. Victoria, how could you forget the fish you were raising? He just had to bring that up. I studied him more carefully. My memory was excellent. I hadn't forgotten him. His name was Cameron Bai, but he looked completely different now from what I remembered. I had met him at a cocktail party I attended with my dad. If Dominic Chan's family owned half the city, then Cameron's family practically had roots in every inch of it. Even my dad had to treat them with respect. The reason I didn't recognize him? It was because I remembered it vividly. At the party, he wore a black suit, aloof as an iceberg, the type that didn't speak unless necessary. On Instagram, he ignored me completely. Ice cold. I'd asked him out multiple times, rejected every time. Chapter 15. After that encounter in the gym, Cameron started seeking me out often, so I changed his contact name from 188 Rich doesn't reply to 188 Rich Psycho. Obviously, I never told him that. His wealth meant connections for me. If he was interested in me, all the better. As for love, I had learned my lesson. Men are trash. Dominic Chan and I were over, though oddly enough, he still wasn't officially with Valentina. I sometimes saw him waiting for her outside classrooms, looked like he was still chasing her. I didn't have time to worry about that. My dad had started passing on company affairs to me. I was busier than ever. I knew he had originally planned to groom Valentina, but Valentina was really not that bright. I thought, finally, I'd outshone Valentina. I thought I'd proven myself to him. I thought I could win my father back. But that afternoon, my father sat at the head of the table, poured me a cup of tea, and said, word by word, Vicky, you must study hard. In the future, you'll be assisting your sister. Chapter 16. I worked so hard. I studied from dawn to dusk, never allowing myself time to have fun. I pushed myself to the brink just to earn the recognition of others. And what was it all for? Just so my dad could tell me to study, and then use everything I'd learned to pave the way for that sister of mine who only knows how to fall in love. That afternoon, I had a huge fight with my father. He smashed his inkstone, pointed at me, so angry he couldn't even speak. Do you even know that actually? You. At that moment, I felt like he was about to confess something he'd kept from me for a long time. But then a snow-white figure burst in. Enough. Daddy, please stop talking. Valentina stood between him and me. Her eyes were red as she bit her lip. Sis, don't blame Daddy, okay? It's all my fault. If it weren't for me, things wouldn't have ended up like this. I'm just a jinx. She sobbed, tears falling down her cheeks. I hadn't even cried. So what the hell was she crying for? I let out a short laugh, leaned in close to her, and said slowly, word by word, you're right. You are a jinx. She flinched violently, like a frightened little rabbit. And then my dad hurled the dictionary on the table at me. This time, I couldn't dodge. The sharp pain to my forehead nearly knocked me out. But I still held back my tears. I wanted to laugh, but I couldn't anymore. I turned and walked out the door. Behind me was my father's furious roar. He told me to get out, to never step foot in this house again. Chapter 17. When did it all start? One by one, the people around me left. No matter how much harder I tried, it was useless. They all somehow ended up on the side of someone else. My sister, Valentina. It's strange, isn't it? Like some invisible hand had orchestrated it all. I stopped winning first place in competitions. It was always her now. Not because she was better, but because the instructor said they were touched by her hard work. Valentina always made a point to add my close friends online, claiming she just wanted to be closer to her sister. Then after a while, I'd noticed those friends slowly distancing themselves from me. Lately, more rumors were spreading at school, that I was a school bully, that I was a vicious, fake woman, that I'd been bullied before and now I was bullying my own sister. Even photos from when I was bullied started circulating. Photos like knives, slicing through my old wounds. Only Leo had those. I confronted him, demanding why. Why not only spread lies, but expose the times I was hurt? He said, it was what I deserved, because I'd bullied my sister. Chapter 18. What's the point of hanging upside down like that? Cameron tilted his head as he stood in front of me. Yes, I was hanging upside down from a bar in the remote gym. It was the only way I could stop myself from crying. I'd forgotten that Cameron often napped in this abandoned gym too. After spending so many days together, we'd grown close. I'd come to know that behind his aloof surface, he was actually a bit nuts. I also knew he was lonely. That's why he always came looking for me. No one else hung out with him, because everyone said he was a jinx. Cameron, I read a novel recently. I said, it was about a fake heiress who lived like a queen, until the real heiress came back. I feel like I'm that fake heiress. I'm the imposter, the villainess, the supporting role destined to be betrayed and slapped in the face. He looked down at me and smiled. Really? Where can you find a villainess as cute as you? He helped me down from the bar with a laugh. Come on down, Batgirl. Stay like that much longer and your head's gonna burst. The rain outside still poured relentlessly. Then I suddenly asked him, do you think I'm a bully too? He blinked, then lowered his head and pulled out a necklace he always wore around his neck. It was a slightly tarnished, copper Star of David. For a rich boy like him, it was way below his usual standard. This, he said, was given to me by a little girl back when I was in an orphanage. The pendant glinted dully under the sunset light. That girl, she was my reason for surviving. She once told me, it's exactly because life has cracks that the light can get in. Victoria, you can be a kind, strong protagonist too. The heroine who overcomes everything and ends up fulfilled. The path you walk, that's up to you, isn't it? Yes. So what if fate messes with me? So what if the whole world stands against me? Even if I die, I'll die with style. Chapter 19. That's how I've survived. Even with broken bones, I get back up. Even if I live in misery, I'll put on a smile for the world to see. I thought if I was just stubborn enough, if I never gave in, maybe, just maybe, fate would choose my side once. But I was wrong. As Cameron and I spent more time together, he gradually heard bits about Valentina from me. He'd never met her, and Valentina didn't know I knew him, so they'd never added each other. I'm kinda curious now, he said one day, chewing on a straw. What does your little White Lotus sister even look like? White Lotus was his nickname for Valentina. I could tell from his tone, he didn't like her. And yet, I frowned. Don't go looking for her. There's something off about her. Seriously off. I didn't know why I said that. I didn't really believe even Cameron could be charmed away by Valentina. He wasn't like the others. He was a lunatic. Lunatics don't follow normal logic. But still, I felt uneasy. What's this? Afraid she'll steal me away? He teased, leaning in. Yes, I was afraid. Cameron was the only one still by my side, even if he was nuts. You're serious? Come on, like I'd ever leave you. He smiled easily. Then, a delicate voice rang out behind me. Huh, sis. What are you doing here? Too late. I saw the man who had just been joking with me freeze up at the sight of Valentina. That was the first time I truly felt that fate was a hand, gripping me by the throat. Back in the orphanage, a little girl had once given Cameron a necklace. The same one he still wore today. And who was that little girl? My sister smiled at him in surprise. Cameron, brother? What are you doing here? New Sunshine Orphanage. Do you remember me? Remember? He once said. She was his reason for surviving. Chapter 19. So what did I do that day? I turned and walked away. I could already picture the rest. They would recognize each other. Cameron would realize that the light of his life was actually my sister. And then, completely, irreversibly, he'd stand by her side. He'd mock me, condemn me, say, Victoria, so this is who you really are? A woman who makes up lies about her own sister. I knew this script far too well. This time, I was prepared. I deleted all his contact info before he had the chance to delete mine. At least that way, I'd look like I had the upper hand. But still, my feet didn't stop moving. Hadn't I said I'd live gloriously? That I'd show the world the dazzling version of myself? How could I collapse here? I was the one who took the initiative to fix things with my dad. But the truth was, I was still too weak. I didn't have enough leverage to go against him. So we made a bet. Valentina and I would compete for the same project under the company. If I won, he'd let me lead the company's decision-making. If I lost, not only would I not assist Valentina, he'd have me pack up and leave. He said he wouldn't acknowledge me as his daughter anymore. By then, I more or less understood what I meant to him. And maybe, what he'd been hiding from me all along. But I just smiled, and accepted the project. Graduation was approaching, and it was time to think about entering the company anyway. This was my first time handling such a large project. Thanks to prior hands-on experience, I managed to get up to speed quickly. I stayed up late in the office refining proposals, long after the lights in the building had gone dark. And my sister? When she got the brief, she looked utterly lost. Sis, I don't want to compete with you, she said, but I couldn't let my guard down, not even for a second. The client company for this bid was BX Group, with that Bai in the name. Of course, it was a subsidiary of the Bai family, which meant Cameron Bai might have significant influence over the outcome. But by now, his name was buried in my blacklist. Another long night of revisions. I rubbed my temples, wondering when the rumor started about me being a spoiled, arrogant heiress. My team didn't cooperate well. Some even grumbled about how they wished they were assigned under Valentina instead. I dipped my pen in ink. In the stillness of the night, waves of powerlessness and disappointment swept over me. Why was there always this invisible wall? No matter how hard I tried? Why was it always me, bleeding, bruised, crushed, no matter how much effort I poured in? Is fate really that cruel? I shut down my computer and headed downstairs. A black phaeton was parked at the company entrance. I looked up and saw Cameron, his earrings gone, dressed in a black suit, quietly watching me. I tried to walk past him. He stepped forward and grabbed my wrist. I let out a cold laugh, staring him straight in the eyes. What are you going to say? Tell me to stop hurting my sister? Tell me to bow out of this competition? Or apologize to that sweet, innocent, utterly harmless sister of mine? The wind blew silently between us. I watched him sigh. He reached out to smooth down my messy hair, then bent forward and smiled. Tell you to go home early. Stop staying up so late. I froze. He really is a lunatic. A lunatic who doesn't even want my sister. We stood leaning against his car, his head lowered, fingers playing with a coffee cup. Victoria, this bid, it was designed for your sister. That project may be coming from my family's company, but the real partners involved are the Chan and Liu families. Dominic and Leo. Your sister can easily get the qualification for the bid. Thanks to those two. This game, you were destined to lose from the beginning. No wonder my dad didn't worry about me taking Valentina's place. No wonder Valentina could keep playing around with Dominic and Leo. It was like fate. Timing. People, everything favored her. Like she was siphoning off all the luck that should have been mine. There was no moon that night. I heard Cameron whisper, "I can help you." Looks like Valentina's already submitted her design draft. I could steal it for you. He didn't have to say the rest. If I had her draft, I could present it first at the bid. At that point, Valentina wouldn't be able to prove that the design was originally hers. It was the only way I might beat her. I looked at the man beside me. Why would you help me? You wore the necklace she gave you for so long. He paused, then smiled. Oh, that thing? Honestly, those orphanage years were horrible. Seeing her face just reminds me of all that. Makes me hate her even more. He really was crazy. I didn't respond. Two moths fluttered around the lone streetlight, beating their wings, and then I heard him say softly, "My dad picked me up from that orphanage. My mom gave birth to me, then left me at its doorstep. Later, my dad found me and confirmed we were related by blood. I'm the only biological heir he has left. He always hoped I'd take his place one day, but I don't want to be some high-end mighty CEO. So what do you want to be?" I asked, lifting my head. In the darkness, for the first time, there was a glimmer in Cameron's eyes. "I want to." He stopped, then smiled at me. "Never mind, Victoria. If I ever really chase my dream job one day, I'll tell you then, okay?" Chapter 20. In the end, I didn't let Cameron steal Valentina's design draft. Not because I had any qualms about using dirty tactics, I didn't. I just genuinely looked down on Valentina's work. To claim her designs as my own would have felt like an insult. Soon, the day of the bid presentation arrived. I walked past Valentina, makeup flawless and composed. She reached for my sleeve timidly and called out, "Sis, can we not do this? Dad doesn't want us like this either." Once, I was the girl everyone admired, the best, the brightest. Now, I was the villain, the one everyone avoided. If this were a novel, we'd be nearing the end, wouldn't we? The kind-hearted heroine starts her new chapter in life. And I, the malicious second female lead, fade out of the story. But in this world, is there really such a clear divide between black and white, right and wrong? I clutched the proposal tightly. This was my last strike against fate, and I lost completely. The whole bid had indeed been designed for Valentina. Several of the partner firms were tied to Dominic Chan. When I saw him again, he felt like a figure from another lifetime. After the presentation, he cornered me in a stairwell, suit pristine, eyes dripping with scorn. "Victoria, I told you, didn't I? I'd make you regret it. Look at you now, total failure. That's what you'd get for bullying your sister." I kept my head down. Maybe he thought I had no fight left. He let out a cold snort. And maybe he was right now. I had nothing. Everyone had turned their backs on me. I was trampled on, driven out of the home where I was born and raised. But just as he turned to leave, I spoke. I didn't lose. I'm not going to admit defeat. He shook his head mockingly and walked away, ignoring me. Now that I no longer posed a threat to his beloved Valentina, I leaned against the wall, slowly straightening my back. But that's just who I am. Even if the road ahead is filled with endless obstacles, I will still walk forward, even if the curtain falls. I'll make sure my presence lingers, bold and unforgettable. Chapter 21. My father told me I wasn't his biological daughter. I'd already guessed as much. After all, my life couldn't be more melodramatic. Fate seemed determined to see me lose to Valentina at every turn, but I wouldn't give in. Later, Cameron drove me to the airport. I couldn't stay in the country any longer. I was being targeted by too many people, tossed out like a stray dog. Back in school, I had befriended a senior studying fashion design. She later moved to the UK and opened a small design firm. Thankfully, I had built at least a few connections. She said she was willing to take me in, and I chose fashion. because clothing was the foundation of my father's entire empire. But I wouldn't stay in exile forever. One day, I'd come back, and I'd use the very thing they once took pride in to slap every single one of them in the face. As the plane took off, I left my homeland behind, watching the clouds drift past the window. I finally felt it, how real it was, that the world had abandoned me. If life were like those feel-good web novels, I'd only need to say 30 years east of the river, 30 years west, and I'd be justified in my defiance. The first year in the UK was rough. Once, during a rental dispute, my landlord shoved my suitcase and bag out the door in the middle of the night just because someone else offered to pay more. That someone was Leo, calling me from afar, venom in his voice. My sister's unhappy these days, he said, so you don't get to be happy either. London's damp weather could turn in an instant, the sky filled with storm clouds like the wrath of gods. I clutched my bag, hiding beneath a bridge, but nothing could stop the rain from soaking through, ruining the design drafts inside. Just like nothing could stop fate from dragging me into darkness. You still don't believe in fate? That's what Cameron had asked me as he sent me off. You still don't believe in fate? Maybe your fate is to be shattered, over and over again. Maybe everything you do is pointless, and in the end, you'll still be tossed into a pit of darkness. Will you still fight? Will you still try, even knowing that trying might not matter? I wiped the rain from my cheeks. With trembling fingers, I dialed his number, until I heard his calm, lazy voice on the other end. Hello? Took you long enough to call me, you heartless girl. He always acted like the world didn't matter, floating through life without a care. I clutched the receiver tightly and asked softly, Cameron, do you think we should believe in fate? There was a pause on the other end before he answered. I'm still looking for that answer myself. Later, I found out. That night, the night I called Cameron, he had just stormed out of his family home. A top student from a prestigious school, gifted and sharp. Cameron had run away. He said he wasn't doing it anymore, said he didn't want the family business. He left his bank cards and every cent of his savings on his dad's desk. Later, I learned what his dream truly was. A year and a half later, from the other side of the world, he began sending me photos, one by one. Chapter 22. Spring turned to autumn. Again and again, it felt like every piece of misfortune in the world had chosen to fall on me and Cameron. In London, I was rejected by a potential partner for the 11th time. Meanwhile, Cameron lost his most expensive lens in the chaos of war-torn Syria. Yes, his dream was to become a war photographer. Only then did I learn that the orphanage he once lived in was filled with children abandoned by wars in Southeast Asia. Maybe a tiny seed had been planted in his heart long ago. And now, it had taken root, pushing him forward. The last time we spoke on the phone, it was during an air raid alarm in a combat zone. He said, Victoria, I've figured it out. This is what I was meant to do. After that, all of our communication was through letters. And from his writing, I could almost see the scenes, fields of fire and ash. Roofs blasted apart by smoke and bombs. But the most haunting part were the innocent eyes of the children beneath the rubble. He told me he hadn't been able to save one little girl. When enemy planes began bombing, a soldier tasked with protecting the press pulled him into a shelter. But the little girl, later, he dug through the debris in a panic. And all he found was a scrap of pink cloth. That's when he began to fall apart. Sometimes, it felt like fate was playing the cruelest joke on us. Our letters started to feel like a competition over who had it worse. I was betrayed by my lead designer. He was nearly blown apart by a falling bomb. But eventually, it was like fate loosened its chokehold on our throats. My design company finally found its footing. One of Cameron's photographs made it into an international exhibition. When he accepted the award, he said, if the thunder of bombs can't strike the soul, then maybe the innocent eyes of children beneath them will. Those children, there were millions of them, trapped in war. Cameron sent many of his photos directly to me. Sometimes, I'd help him pick out shots to submit to journals and websites. One day, I noticed a note scribbled in the bottom right corner of one of his prints. The writing was hurried, but the pen strokes firm. If your pictures aren't good enough, you aren't close enough. That was the meaning behind Cameron's burning devotion to his craft. Chapter 23. In the 5th year since I left home, our design company finally found its stride. One of my collections won a prestigious international design award. For once, fate seemed to finally stand on my side. I welcomed the sunrise by the crashing waves of the coast. But I couldn't find Cameron anymore. He hadn't contacted me in ages. For an entire year, I heard nothing from him. War correspondents vanish like that. One day they're laughing behind a lens. The next, they're a name buried in the battlefield. When I could no longer reach Cameron, panic, a feeling I hadn't known in years, returned. When had I started caring so deeply for him? Was it when he kept sending me letters, without fail? When he borrowed satellite phones in war zones just to banter with me? Or when he sent me hundreds of photos, all for me to keep? He once said, "Victoria, if one day I'm gone, help me sort through these, would you?" Before I knew it, I was calling in every favor I had, rereading every letter he'd ever sent me. But Cameron had been gone too long. Maybe people like me are cursed to bring bad luck. Cameron disappeared, and somehow, my luck began to rise. The company kept growing. My reputation in the fashion world climbed steadily. It was as if an invisible hand was lifting me upward. That soaring success, the one I'd always wanted, now left me cloaked in loneliness, with no one to share it with. On New Year's Eve, I walked the streets of London alone. In recent years, even the British had taken to celebrating Chinese New Year. Some streets were lined with red lanterns, but such festive unity meant nothing to me anymore. I walked with my head down, until I saw a pair of familiar leather boots. And in that instant, everything broke. All the anger, resentment, injustice of being a stranger in a strange land, it all surged up. I stared at the man before me, shoved him, and kept shoving him as I shouted, "Where have you been? Huh? I'm asking you, where the hell did you go? You couldn't leave a note? A single damn letter? Do you even know what I thought? I thought you." I never finished the sentence, because he suddenly pulled me into a tight embrace. I couldn't remember the last time someone had hugged me. His warmth was so unreal that my hands hesitated midair. "I'm sorry." His voice was hoarse. During the reporting in Syria, I was taken by the local militia. His chin rested on my shoulder, his fingers gently pressing the back of my head. "They locked us up for 9 months, Victoria. I was scared the whole time, not of dying, but of never seeing you again." Fireworks exploded in the sky above, and all the angry words I had lined up melted in my throat. I just clung tightly to the fabric of his coat, because honestly, I didn't know what else I still had left to hold on to. Chapter 24. Time really does change people. Back when I was forced overseas, I was filled with anger and unwillingness. I was determined to return in glory and strike back. But now, standing once more on this land, it all felt like another lifetime. Everyone had changed. Back then, we were still students, youthful and blunt. Whether it was love or hate, it was clear-cut. But in the adult world, no one wears their heart on their sleeve. Everything is veiled in polite hypocrisy. At a banquet hosted by a major real estate mogul, I saw Dominic again. Today, my status was enough to match his. No, he even had something to gain from me. He raised his glass with a smile, toasting me, as if he hadn't dragged me into hell, as if he'd never abandoned me. Yes, this was the adult world where everyone pretends. We clinked glasses, exchanged polite words, as if there had never been bad blood between us. Then I turned around and told my assistant to go all in on attacking Dominic's company. In recent years, he'd been obsessed with helping Valentina, to the point the Jiang family's finances were crumbling. He thought, with our old relationship, he could easily get my sponsorship. Instead, I stomped on his last lifeline, pouring fuel on the fire. And Leo Lu, years of chasing Valentina to no avail had broken him. He'd given up on himself, and fallen into a haze of depression. I found him behind a bar, drunk beyond recognition. He was so pathetic. I didn't even feel the urge to hit him. I just nudged his unconscious body with my foot, then told my assistant to let loose the wild dogs locked in the car. In the darkness of that alley, his screams mixed with the howls of beasts. Chapter 25. So then, where did the true culprit of all this, my dear sister Valentina, go? Fate had once again brought us to opposite ends. Another bid. This one would determine if my company could finally enter the domestic market. I'd seen Valentina a few times in previous partnership meetings. She still loved wearing white dresses. Predictably, she had climbed the ladder by stepping on our father, now basking in success. She blinked those wide, innocent eyes as she shook my hand, then whispered in my ear, "Sis, why did you come back? Do you want me to take everything from you all over again?" That little rabbit was baring her fangs for the first time. Chapter 26. I guess, at that moment, I had truly become a threat to her. She squinted her eyes and gave me an adorably sweet smile. Honestly, I had always vaguely sensed that she was calculating. But she hid it so well, and the people around her were bewitched, utterly infatuated with her. Cameron came back to the country 2 weeks before the bidding conference. At that time, I was swamped, running myself ragged to win this bid, to beat Valentina. I had to be fully prepared, so prepared that even under a nanomicroscope, no flaws could be found. After gulping down my 3rd cup of coffee, I was forced by him over the phone. "Come downstairs. Stop staring at that crap proposal of yours." I got into Cameron's car and fell asleep the moment I sat down. No amount of caffeine could compete with exhaustion. He sighed and reluctantly draped a blanket over me. I woke up around dusk. Outside, the dim light cast a slanted beam into the car's interior. He was holding a camera, photographing something I couldn't see. "Stop shooting." I ran my fingers through my hair and told him I hadn't even done my makeup. He capped the lens, then handed me a folder with a wry smile. "Victoria, do you remember asking me if we should believe in fate? Well, now, I'm not so sure either." I opened the folder. Inside were several photos. Valentina, arm in arm with a man, entering and leaving several hotels. Cameron rubbed his temples and said, "Justin, you know him, right? He's the CEO of the company you're bidding for. This guy, I don't know how he became such a big shot, but his business empire spans the whole country, and his family has powerful connections. Look." He pointed to the photos. "How many times has he been to hotels with Valentina? Is there really any question about who's going to win this bid?" He was just short of saying this bid was a billionaire's gift to his little mistress. But that wasn't what caught my attention. I flipped through the photos repeatedly, then asked him, "Cameron, you're a war reporter. How come you know some tabloid paparazzi? These shots, classic tabloid angles." "No?" He pressed his fist to his lips and coughed once. "Ahem. I took them myself. Regular reporters don't have my guerrilla-level skills." I tucked the photos back in, then handed them back to him, smiled. "I get it now. Actually, I have a friend who works in the AI industry. Before I came, he had an AI calculate my chances of winning this bid. Wanna guess what it said? 37%. But still, I believe I can win." He froze, then suddenly laughed, lifted his camera, aimed it at me, and asked, "Why?" I used to think I was the supporting role, the fated side character, the cannon fodder doomed to be sacrificed. But what if I'm actually the protagonist of another story? What if someone out there is watching me, hoping I'll fight back against the odds, hoping I'll win, hoping I'll defeat the rival I was destined to lose to? I curled my lips into a faint smile and softly said to the lens, "I won't lose. 37%. Is it? One day, that 37 will become 100%. You better watch closely, this curtain call will be grand." Chapter 27. The organizer of this round's bidding conference was none other than the elusive CEO, Justin's son. I had tried to schedule a meeting with him several times, but he never agreed, until I mentioned my sister Valentina and hinted at the complicated history between us. Only then did I get a 20-minute meeting. He was exactly as the rumors described, a man with an overwhelming presence, elegant and composed in every gesture, so powerful that with a flick of his wrist he could crush someone. He looked down his nose at me, arrogance etched into every line of his face. "Miss Lynn, even if you used your sister to buy yourself a few minutes, I don't see what we have to discuss." I smiled slightly and replied, "Mr. Sun, they all say I bullied my sister." His eyes narrowed, focused on me, "But I've done nothing. And yet, every man around her, like bewitched, chooses to believe in her completely. I worry. Mr. Sun, that you're no different. A flicker of anger crossed his face. His gaze sharpened. Are you daring to speculate about me? I shook my head. I'm just advising you to choose your business wisely. Thinking of Dominic and Leo's fates. I added. Otherwise, you may end up with regrets. A lot of pain and regret. He let out a low laugh. And what makes you think choosing you means choosing wisely? I paused, then finally moved to the point. Because, Mr. Sun, you know as well as I do what my sister really is. And the proposals I've submitted in the past few days, aren't they better than hers? You can see it, can't you? Maybe this bidding conference is just a little gift for your sweetheart, but have you considered what you'd gain if you chose me instead? It might be small now, but what if that gain triggers a bigger chain reaction? My brand went global within 4 years of launch. You're a rational businessman, not someone ruled by romance, right? All I ask is that you treat this bid fairly. He didn't speak, but his gaze never left me. I gave a polite nod and left without waiting for an answer. I didn't need a reply. All I needed was for the seed to be planted. Afterward, I threw myself into revising the proposal nonstop. Those 20 minutes weren't for small talk, they were strategic. To communicate more effectively with clients. I'd studied some psychology. I mentally built a profile of Justin, what kind of person he was, what kind of presentation he'd prefer. Everything had to be perfect, from the way I presented, to what I wore, to the tone of every word. 5 or 6 sleepless days passed. The day before the bid, Cameron asked me to go hiking. I was already physically drained, but he said, "Climb with me, and I promise I'll let you sleep after." The reason? There was a temple at the top of the mountain, a very spiritual one. He said. I couldn't help but laugh. Cameron, since when are you so superstitious? He stood under the temple eaves, hands in his pockets. That day, when I realized Valentina was the little girl I lost long ago, I almost gave in. I looked at him, stunned. My voice came out quieter than I expected. Then, why didn't you choose her? He gazed up at the red silk ribbons fluttering in the temple wind, then walked toward me, step by step. He fastened a red talisman around my neck, because I don't believe in fate. But now, I find myself wanting to beg the gods anyway, to beg them to spare you, just once, to stand by your side, just once. He pulled me into his arms, our fingers interlocked, his hand warm against my palm. I don't want you to suffer anymore. I don't want you to feel so wronged. I don't want you to give everything you have, and still lose it all. You know? The day you called me and asked if we should believe in fate, it almost broke me. I stared at the phoenix tree in the courtyard, then raised my hand to tousle his soft black hair. I won't lose. Cameron. I told you before, I won't lose. Chapter 28. The day of the bidding conference arrived in the blink of an eye. As always, Valentina wore white. White suited her. She smiled at me gently, as if I weren't her direct competitor. As if I were just her long-lost elder sister returning home. There were quite a few companies participating. But everyone knew the true battle would be between me and her. One was a rising brand with undeniable strength. The other was the CEO's beloved little darling. Valentina spoke first. She had clearly put in effort. But effort alone wasn't enough. Even some second-tier companies outperformed her. Yet somehow, despite all her imperfections, she had the strange power to dry her eyes only to her strengths. When her presentation ended, it was my turn. As I stepped onto the stage, a strange sense of disorientation hit me. Everything I needed to say, I'd practiced in my head thousands of times. I stared out the window, watching tree shadows sway softly in the wind. London plane trees rustled in the breeze. And suddenly, I thought of so many things. Of how I used to study like my life depended on it. Just to earn a word of approval from my father. Of how they called me fat. So I starved myself until I landed in the hospital. And no one came to see me. Of how I gave up every ounce of joy. Woke up at 4 a.m. to practice posture in front of the mirror. Of how I studied how to smile beautifully. Wore a mask. Learned to navigate complex social webs. Violin, calligraphy, dance. I told myself, you must be excellent. So excellent, that no one will ever abandon you again. But in the end, I had nothing. Even after my bones were shattered, I still stitched myself back together and stood tall. When would this cycle ever end? Would fate ever let me win, just once? My speech concluded. Applause echoed through the room. Everyone was impressed. This was the best version of me. The version I'd practiced for 1,000 nights in front of a mirror. Everyone, except one, Justin's son, seated at the head of the table, remained unmoved. He began summarizing the bids, and the only proposal he mentioned was Valentina's. As he praised her work, my heart began to sink, as if plunging into icy depths. Had I lost again? Why couldn't I just give up? Why did I keep trying, even when my bones had been crushed again and again? This 37% probability. Why would it ever choose me? I looked up and met Valentina's gaze. She didn't sneer. She didn't mock me. She just smiled softly. But in that smile, I saw everything. She was saying, "Sister, did I push you into hell again?" I sat stiffly, stomach twisting with pain. My mind drifted. I couldn't even hear Justin clearly anymore. He was still talking about Valentina, how he could sense the childlike sincerity in the creator of her plan, that it had flaws. Yes, but it was the most pure and beautiful work he'd seen in a long time. He turned the ring on his finger. Then, his gaze landed on me. However, the company we will ultimately entrust with this project is Victoria Lynn's. My head snapped up. It was as if the entire room slowed to half speed. Justin's words echoed like thunder, and the conference hall erupted in astonishment. Valentina shot to her feet. I heard Justin say, "Miss Lynn, the perfection of your proposal left me no room to refuse. I am, after all, a businessman, and I greatly respect someone who lives up to their word." He stepped forward and shook my hand. I quickly adjusted my expression, putting on the composure I'd practiced for years. Somewhere in the room, applause began, and for the first time in what felt like forever, those admiring eyes finally turned toward me. Only Valentina remained standing, her eyes red, staring at Justin. Then, as if unable to endure it, she stormed out of the room. My vision blurred slightly. I saw, suddenly, a much younger version of myself. The little girl who had her head shoved in a toilet. The little girl who shrank into herself, silent and afraid. She looked at me and asked, "Victoria, did we win?" I think, yes, I won. Not against Valentina, but against my fate. Chapter 29. I stepped out of the company building and picked up my phone, dialing a number. He answered almost immediately. A soft chuckle spilled through the receiver. "So, how'd it go?" "Take a guess," I teased, blinking into the sunlight. "I'm guessing you won the bid." "Oh, Master Bai, the great photographer. Spot on as always." He laughed, that slow, teasing laugh that tugged the corners of my lips into a smile I couldn't stop. Then he asked, "Where are you right now?" I had been too eager to share the news, so I just sat down by a newsstand near the company entrance. I told him my location. He said, "Victoria, you didn't forget it's your birthday today, did you?" My birthday? I'd long since stopped caring about it, but since he mentioned it, I decided to play along. "Oh, and what have you got for me, Cameron?" He replied, "Go to that newsstand beside you. Buy a magazine called The Protagonist." That day, the sunlight was just right. Warm, golden, gentle. Near the fountain, pigeons danced and fluttered, and the breeze carried autumn leaves into rippling waves on the water. I saw the magazine titled The Protagonist, and on its cover was my face. Cameron was good at portraits. I wasn't surprised he contributed to editorial spreads, but I was surprised that my face had taken over an entire cover. It was the photo he took of me in the car that day, half my face hidden in shadow, the other half bathed in light, eyes bright, staring straight into the lens. The moment he clicked the shutter, I had said, "Make sure you watch me closely, this is going to be a grand finale." I laughed to myself. The wind tossed my hair into the air like silk ribbons. Across from me, Cameron stood holding his camera, smiling. His voice came through the phone again. "Even if the road ahead is hard, keep going, Victoria. You're the protagonist of your own story. You always have been. Chapter Extra. How many years has it been since that bidding competition? I'm not even that old yet, but my little sister is already buried in the ground. I stared at the photo on the gravestone. It was just then. A pampered, well-kept hand reached over beside me. He slowly stroked the gravestone, his fingers fumbling over the photo of my sister, even with sunglasses on. I knew he was blind. Not just any blind man. He was Justin. Oh, now he's lost his fortune of tens of millions. Just an ordinary man. Hey, Valen, he muttered. And before the words could leave his lips, tears came first. Will you forgive me? Will you forgive me? I shouldn't have taken your kidney. I shouldn't have donated blood to another woman while you were pregnant. I shouldn't have forced you to donate your corneas. Look, I gave you mine. I shouldn't have broken your legs just to imprison you. Valen, I didn't want to force you. I loved you. I'm sorry. The man was in agony. I stepped aside a bit, afraid his tears might splash onto the hem of my pants. Next to Valentina's grave, there were also two others, the grave of Dominic and the grave of Leo. Apparently, the two of them fought over Valentina. Both drove off a cliff. It didn't even stir a shred of emotion in me. I placed a white flower beside my sister's gravestone and left. Around the bend of the cemetery, a white sedan was parked, waiting for me. Cameron slouched over the steering wheel, lazily watching me. You really have a heart. Visiting your sister's grave. I shrugged. It's just to sneer at her fate. He chuckled, then started the engine, then, offhandedly said, Victoria, next month, I'm headed to the Libyan battlefield. It's always like this, such short trips back home. Victoria, you're not that young anymore. Maybe it's time to find someone. Settle down. I don't know if I'll make it back in time for your wedding. I cut him off. Cameron, I'm going with you next month. He slammed on the brakes, stunned in place, trembling. He asked me, what did you say? I said, I'm going with you. Didn't that journalist who used to partner with you resign? I'll be your new partner. Anyway, Valentina's dead. I don't really have any motivation left to compete. I've seen the photos you sent from the front lines. Who wouldn't be moved by them after seeing enough? I want to do something meaningful with my life too. I said all that a little awkwardly. He suddenly pinned me against the car window. What are you doing? I patted his back. There was a gleam in his eyes, and he looked at me, stammering, You really want to go with me? I knew this guy. He liked me, wanted to steal me away, but with the nature of his work, he never dared say it. I raised my hand and tousled his dark hair. Sigh. It's not just for you, Cameron. Anyone who's seen the horrors of war can't remain indifferent. And now, to call for peace, to draw public attention to the devastation of war, your path is the only way. Isn't it? Would you laugh at me for being arrogant? I wish for world peace. His nose brushed gently against my neck, and he softly said, Not arrogant. This is exactly what people like us are meant to do. Isn't it?